thought, why the hell not? Life is so short. We should give this a try. So I sort of snuck away from my sisters, ran up to our tiny little cruise ship cabin, paid $1 bazillion to FaceTime Mr. Ams and say, I don't know about you, but I think we should do this. And then all three of my sisters walk in the door like the minute I say it. And so I said, okay, gotta go, bye, and shut the laptop. And I didn't get an answer from him. For like 24 hours, we could not communicate.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy approach to non-monogamy. However, it's important to remember that everyone does it a little bit differently, and the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware that we aren't doctors or therapists. Consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 176. We're Finn and Emma, and today we have an interview with Ams and Kat. They are the hosts of the 2HotWives podcast, and the podcast is a lot about women's sexuality. The funny part is they actually didn't know what the term hot wife meant in like the non-monogamy world until after they started the podcast.
Yeah, so I think that, to your point though, like the podcast is more about women's sexuality and life
exactly
than it is to swinging or the lifestyle or hot wifing in any capacity. So they'll talk a lot more about that, but we just wanted to throw that out there. If you're like, ugh, I'm not into hot wifing, I don't want to listen to these
Or maybe you are.
Well, yeah, maybe you don't know you are. Anyway, point is, it's a great conversation. Thank you to both of you, Ams and Kat, for coming on and for all the work you do. We really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you for the great conversation.
So a few announcements before we jump into the show. First up, our next virtual meet and greet is this coming Saturday, April 17th from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern. Now, if you haven't attended one of these meet and greets before, you really should check it out.
You're really missing out on one of the greatest joys in life.
Yes.
And that is not an overstatement.
And an opportunity to meet really awesome, amazing, like-minded people.
Like us.
Uh-huh.
Because we're there.
Yep.
And we meet almost everybody who comes in.
Yep. They're $10, and to join, just go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and click on the meet and greet button.
These are open to everybody, so you don't have to be a member of the Patreon community, which we'll talk about in a minute. You don't have to even be non-monogamous or in a relationship or anything at all other than just an open-minded, awesome person. Show up in whatever capacity you want and just have a great time and be kind to everybody.
Yes.
We'll see you there.
We'll see you Saturday. And also, if you happen to miss this one, don't worry, we'll have another one in May.
Did you tell them how to get there? Normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the meet and greet tab.
I did, I think.
I think you did. If not, we just told them again.
Yep. Also, we wanted to quickly announce, so for our Patreon community, a huge shout out, thank you to all of our Patreon members, over 160 of you. We are so grateful for all of you. And our calls this month are going to be towards the end of the month. We have a men's group call on April 20th, a women's group call on April 21st, and a Q&A on April 28th. There are 2 Q&As on April 28th. So write those dates down. Come join our Patreon. You can always join, try out the calls, and cancel if it's not a good fit for you. But we'll talk more about Patreon in the outro.
Yeah, we just want to get those dates out there for everybody, and just so everyone's on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Anything else exciting happening?
Go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the Contact Us button. There you can send us a voicemail, leave us an email. Leave us a voicemail, send us an email.
There you go. You'll get there.
We'd love to hear from you. We answer everyone's, and we always love hearing from our listeners. You can also go click on the podcast tab and see show notes from every episode that we've published. So there's photos of our guests and links for everything that's mentioned in each show.
Plus, there is a resources tab if you want to find other things that we highly recommend. We have a list of our favorites, which covers some different things that Emma and I use, different services and products. So check those out. Using those links helps support the show. No pressure. We only tell you about the stuff we love, though.
Yes.
And it's all there.
Yes. Okay, well, let's go talk to Ams and Kat.
All right. We'll see you guys on the other side.
Well, welcome to the show, Kat and Ams. We're super excited to have you here, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
the listeners don't know much about you, so we're hoping to give each of you an opportunity to introduce yourselves. And then we'll talk about, I guess, you together in a little bit, but I won't spoil that. So Kat, how about if we have you go first?
Okay, I'm Kat, and I have been married to Mr. Kat for over 20 years. We live in a suburbia kind of place outside of a bigger metropolitan area. And we've been in this area pretty much our whole marriage, about 20 years. We met in college, and fast forward, we've had 2 kids that are getting into their early teens, and they are very busy. So we decided to get busy ourselves. Mr. Kat sort of brought up the subject of an open marriage several years ago. It's something we talked about for a very long time. But he started by just sending me sexy stories by phone, really. They're from a site called X Confessions. And it was where real people would write in their stories, very sexy stories. And they were short stories, so you could read them in like 5-10 minutes. And the stories just got better and better and more sexy. So it started a lot of conversations for us.
Before he started sending you those stories, had you two ever discussed the idea of non-monogamy, or was this like the first time you had even been exposed to it?
So we hadn't really talked about non-monogamy, but we had talked about jealousy issues really early on in our relationship. And neither one of us wanted to deal with any of that. So we decided early on that we were just not going to be jealous. We were going to talk everything out. And so we've always sort of been able to talk about past stories with other people. We've not, it's not open, certainly, but, like, for instance, if we would go to a party, I could flirt and have fun and do whatever I want and be myself. And never was there a problem. I would look over and he'd be smiling, and it was great. So we've always sort of had a fun, sexy relationship that's just not based on any kind of, jealousy or anything like that, but definitely not open until, about 5 or 6 years ago, he started to send the stories. So it just got more and more heated, and it was great. Yeah.
And how did it kind of evolve after the stories? Unless you had, sorry if I interrupted.
That was the exact question I was going to ask. So yeah,
he really just started sending me regular stories about regular couples doing regular things, and they just seemed to get hotter and hotter. And then it turned into sort of more about open relationships. The stories were containing more of those kinds of things. And so it just started conversations. We just started talking about it because I would be like, what is this? And I think he will say that when he sent it to me, he thought, what have I done now? He sort of just did it. And it was fine. I mean, we just started talking about it. And he also introduced me to an interview with Christopher Ryan, who wrote Sex at Dawn. And so we started listening to this interview, and it just made a lot of sense. So I can't say that he brought it up and said, I think we should have an open marriage, but the conversation just went there. And I think I was just very open to it anyway.
Yeah. And so how long, what's the progression from you started getting sexy stories to it's time to go and do this for real for the first time? Like, what did that build up, and what did that transition look like?
It was a long time. It seems like I think it took a couple of years. And part of the reason for that was that Mr. Kat was traveling a lot for work. And so we just weren't together in the same place for very long. And so when he would come home, I would be so excited to see him. And it was fun when he would be home, but then, he would go. And so when we were together at home, we wanted to spend our time together. So we really didn't start venturing out into anything. We started talking about vacations. He had seen this the Desire vacations, and we looked at that and thought that looked really sexy and fun. And it just, it took a long time for us to actually cross the line. And I think we decided to put together a profile for, some of the sites that are out there. And we started meeting people, very, just those first dates, very awkward and not having any idea, what we were stepping into, but just figuring, well, we'll just meet some people and we'll see how it goes. So we just sort of took each step, realizing that we could always walk it back if we weren't comfortable. So I don't think we worried too much about it.
And how did the first meeting or first couple of meetings, how did that go? Because I think that's a huge step, right? That's a huge step to go from, I got some sexy stories on my phone to I'm now
meeting people.
I'm now one of these sexy stories.
Well, the first couple of stories were not all that sexy. Those first dates, we sort of had a rule. We weren't going to play on the first date. And just the first couple of dates, they just didn't look like the profile, or there just wasn't a good match. But I do remember in particular the very, very first date. We walked in and I knew right away that it wasn't going to be a match, but we were there and we were having dinner and they were lovely. They were super nice people. And I got, we were drinking and I got too friendly and flirtatious, and it's just kind of my personality. And they were nice and we were having fun and we were talking about things we've never talked about before on a date, right? So it lent itself to that fun conversation. And towards the end of the night, when we left, he went in to kiss me and I was like, oh, whoops. And I gave him a little peck and we got back in the car and Mr. Kat said, oh, so is this good? And I said, oh, no. So I got myself into a little trouble there, but it was fine. I mean, it was no big deal. They were so nice and they understood and it was good. But I learned a little lesson there,
Yeah.
Don't drink too much on the first date.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just so fast forwarding, to current day. We'll call you the Cats. What does the dynamic look like for the two of you? And then maybe we'll kind of jump over and do Am's side, and then we can maybe fill in some of the gaps between first date and today as we kind of weave your stories together, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. So in the beginning, we were meeting with different couples, and it took a long time. It took a couple of first dates to find a couple that we really clicked with. And I think in those first days too, it's so hard to find a time when 4 people have openings to meet that we weren't even meeting people every week. It seemed like we were doing something maybe once a month, trying to meet a couple. And then even when we started meeting couples, we tend to be, we're not really a one and done kind of couple. We like to form relationships with people. We like to hang out with people we really like. And the conversations are always so much fun. So it would be sort of like we would have a new couple that we would meet, and we might see them a couple of times, and then we would see them at different events. We started going to some of the meet and greets and some of the parties, those were a lot of fun. And our circle just seemed to start to grow from there. There was more and more couples that we had met, some we played with, some we didn't play with, but it seemed like we were starting to form sort of a community. And then about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, we met Ams and Mr. Ams. And from there, we just really formed this really fun, close friendship between the 4 of us. And that's kind of where we've been. I mean, then COVID hit. And we've all been all indoors. So we sort of formed this little quarantine, we call it, where, we were okay to hang out with them. They were okay to hang out with us. We sort of didn't really do anything outside of that for a long time, but it got us probably, closer than we would have been normally.
Right.
Because it's just sort of like, we're only seeing you guys. And
because of the circumstances with COVID. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, thank you for sharing the background. And I'm sure, again, we'll probably have some other questions about all sorts of stuff in there, but this is a great overview. So thank you very much.
Sure.
And how about Ams? Do you mind introducing yourself and telling
Absolutely.
us how, you got into this non-monogamy thing?
Sure thing. So my name is Ams, and I am married to Mr. Ams. We've been together over 20 years. I think we've been married long enough that I've forgotten exactly how many years, but 17, I think. 17, 18, something like that. So essentially we've known each other our entire adult lives, and we've been together our entire adult lives. We did not even know that non-monogamy and the lifestyle existed until it was about 2.5 years ago. We have always had a great marriage, really strong communication, good sex, but very vanilla, conventional sex. And a friend of Mr. Ams got divorced out of the blue. Nobody was expecting it. They had been together for years. They had teenaged kids going into college, and she just kind of woke up one day and said, "We're just two roommates who drive our kids around, and I don't want to be married to you anymore." And it was a real wake-up call for us because we loved each other, but like every couple with youngish kids, we sort of took each other for granted. So we were up in the mountains, which is like our happy place, and got really drunk at a bar one day and just sat down and said, how do we make sure that when our kids go off to college, we still want to be together? And we thought about all the different ways that we could have more fun in our marriage. And so we talked about concerts, and we talked about going to eat amazing food and traveling. And the drunker we got, the more we started talking about sex. So we, had this sort of scale of 1 to 10. Would you want to do this? Would you want to do that? And we kind of gravitated toward more kinky BDSM stuff and wanting to explore that space. I think this probably was around the time that 50 Shades of Grey first came out. So it's a little bit top of mind. And it just seemed accessible. Like we knew that stuff was out there. And we started to research. We're researchers and planners. And Mr. Ams found a dungeon near where we lived that had a Dungeon 101 night, which is kind of like when you go to Costco and they have all the samples laid out of different things that you can try. So, we went into this space. It's in a really crappy part of town in like a warehouse district with a little red light bulb. I mean, my heart was just pounding like you can't even imagine. I thought I was going to be sick to my stomach. But, we walked through the door and we checked it out. And the people in the kink scene are very friendly, super nice, and they have all sorts of rules, more rules than like the non-monogamous community. But that was a great place to start because they set these really strong boundaries when you want to play in that kink space. So we checked out the dungeon, and I got on the spanking bench, and this guy I'd never met spanked me because that's his thing. He really likes to spank, and he's very good at it. But that was like the first time in close to 20 years that somebody had touched me sexually that was not Mr. Ams. And it was really fun. We had great sex after going to the dungeon. So we decided we were going to go back and check it out. And while we were there, somebody had asked if we wanted to play, which was not a term that we were familiar with. We didn't really know what they were talking about, but that started a conversation of what would that look like if, because we had always thought we're just going to get some new tools for the toolbox, right? Get some fun things that we can do with and to each other. But, it was intriguing, the idea of introducing other people more like in a parallel play situation where maybe, another committed couple would be in the same space as us, and it might be fun and exciting to watch them. And when we were at the dungeon, somebody mentioned the term lifestyle. So Mr. Ams was talking to this lady who hosts a tickle potluck once a month. And she said, well, it sounds like maybe what you're looking in, like what you might be interested in is the lifestyle. We're like, cool, something to Google. So we took that information back to the house and we're researching lifestyle. And Mr. Ams actually found the We Got a Thing podcast. And we started to listen to their episodes, which is a phenomenal resource. I know you guys are familiar with the Joneses. But we started kind of learning how to be good swingers before we even knew that was something we wanted to do. And I was about to go on a trip with my 3 sisters, just the 4 of us on a cruise. So I downloaded a bunch of those episodes to listen to while we were traveling, while we were at the gym and hanging out. And I was sold. Like I kept listening and I thought, why the hell not? Life is so short. We should give this a try. So I sort of snuck away from my sisters, ran up to our tiny little cruise ship cabin, paid $1 bazillion to FaceTime Mr. Ams and say, I don't know about you, but I think we should do this. And then all 3 of my sisters walk in the door like the minute I say it. And so I said, okay, gotta go, bye, and shut the laptop. And I didn't get an answer from him for like 24 hours. We could not communicate. So by the time we reconnected about 24 hours later, he'd set up profiles on SLS and Cassidy and APG, and he signed up for the gym. So it was pretty much immediate.
Everybody goes to the gym more.
And you know, so we're relatively new to non-monogamy, but we jumped in with both feet and kind of had the attitude of we'll try anything once, and we have tried most things at least once. But what we've found that we most enjoy is building deeper connections with a smaller group of people. And we're hoping, you know, once COVID subsides and it's safe to get into larger group settings, that we can sort of build our community broader, which doesn't necessarily mean we're going to sleep with all of them, but just hanging out with lifestyle people, with people who are open, who have these great conversations. It's hard to go back. Like we don't hang out with our vanilla friends anymore because we just love talking openly with our lifestyle friends. That's where we're at now.
Yeah. And how long ago was it when that cruise happened and he did all the profiles?
It's 2.5 years ago. It was, yeah.
Yeah.
So we had a solid year and a half before COVID.
That was that was going to be my question, is how much time did you have before COVID?
Yeah. It was a year and a half. And we went on a few dates and, again, met really great people, had amazing open conversations. I mean, you would sit next to a stranger, right? And tell them things that I hadn't told my sisters, that I haven't told friends who I've known for a decade. So that was really cool, even though it took a while to find a connection. And then the first play experience was fumbly, right? And our second lifestyle experience was a huge New Year's Eve sex party, right? Like something, I don't know, 150 couples, like a really large party, which was crazy, overwhelming, exciting, nauseating, like all of the things. And so again, we baptism by fire. We just really jumped into it.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's that uncommon. Like we've heard that from a lot of people. And I think
that you just jump right in.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, well, it's New Year's, or, oh, it's Halloween. We'll go do something crazy. And then you realize that like New Year's and Halloween are like the high holy days for like a swinging event.
High holy days.
So it's like, you show up and you're like, oh, everybody else had this same idea. So yeah, that can be a little intimidating. I was curious, you said, Ams, that you were both researchers, and it sounds like you did quite a bit of listening to podcasts and researching before you did this. And I guess maybe this question is for both of you, but when you went into this, did you go into it with a lot of like rules and like a very firm like box of like, we're going to do it like this. And maybe like, what did those rules look like 2.5 years ago or 5 years ago? And what do they look like today? Like, how has that changed?
So we didn't have any rules because we didn't know we were supposed to make rules.
Yeah. So Mr. Ams and I, once we got started, we were very active, but we had, not only did we have rules, we had boundaries and rules and tenets. So the tenets are unbreakable, right? And it was basically transparency and honesty and consent. Everything is 2 yeses, 1 no. There's no compromising the tenets. And then there are the rules, which are the things that you don't break in an experience. We can talk about them. We can change. They have certainly evolved over time. Our original rules were, we're never going to play in a separate space. And we were a soft swap couple for 9 months. I say we jumped right in. We did some crazy stuff, but it wasn't penetrative sex for a long time. And that was fun. We had a great time just, kind of kicking ass in the kiddie pool for a while. But that rule has changed. And then the boundaries were kind of where what are you feeling tonight? Where are you feeling like this is going to go? And that could change. And, you have to communicate a lot. And we realized the better we were at communicating, the less we needed the boundaries and the less we needed the rules. So, we were never a let's get drunk and see what happens couple. We always kind of approached the experiences really deliberately, but that never kept us from having a good time.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And like, what is like today, you said the rules and the boundaries have changed a lot with your communication, right? Like as your communication grew, it created a safety net to maybe relax some of those. Did I interpret that correctly, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you realize, and Kat and I have talked about this a lot, like if you have a strong marriage, even if something goes sideways, you
can figure it out.
Yeah, you can pick yourself up and dust yourself off and, oh, well, it's just sex and move on from it. So a lot of the communication that we would have at the beginning of an experience, like, what are you okay with? What are you not okay with? What are the expectations for tonight? We didn't need to have those conversations anymore, but we still talk quite a lot after the experience. Was it okay with you? Did everything kind of, did you feel safe and comfortable, and did you come, and whatever it is? There's a lot of conversation that happens afterwards still, but significantly less preparation going in because we know our comfort levels.
Yeah.
Well, and I think with us, we didn't have any rules going in because we really didn't know what this was all about. But as we had that first date, then it was like, okay, we need to figure out a signal. We need to do this. We need to do that. And then we started to talk more and started to figure out rules. We didn't have them all laid out on paper, and we're not quite as organized as the Ams, as Mr. Ams and Ams are. But we talked a lot before each date. What do we want to do tonight? And I would usually say, well, I don't know. I'll let you know. Because you don't know. At least I don't know until, and I didn't know all the different terms. We started after that first date, of course, started looking up more and more things. And we listened to the Joneses as well. We got a thing and learned a lot from them. But it was 3 or 4 first dates without second dates before we kind of figured out what we were doing.
Yeah, I guess moving forward till right now, do you have rules and boundaries set now that you have evolved into, I guess?
No. I don't think so. I mean,
it's okay. You don't have to.
It's usually me that's the limiting factor. I mean, we base our rules on the situation that's in front of us. If we're going to a party and I am not feeling like I want to play, I'm going to say, tonight let's just hang out with each other. Let's have fun. But I don't really want to go on to the playrooms. I don't really want to do that. And even if we go to the playrooms, it would usually just be he and I, and maybe the other couple that we have gone to the party with. We usually would go with another couple. Now it's always Ams and Mr. Ams, but that's just because we haven't gone anywhere for so long.
Yeah,
But,
everything's a little bit simplified right now because of COVID. So it's going to be interesting to see when the world opens up a little bit more and there are meet and greets and there are big parties again, if the rules change.
Well, and just because you have rules when you are going doesn't mean that the rules stay in place, because you get there and you're having fun and you're meeting all these great people and you see some people that you already know and you're like, I'm feeling more comfortable. Just want to let you know, Mr. Kat. So it just depends. I mean, I change my mind all the time. He's used to it.
I was going to say he's probably
Right?
used to it.
Because you can, we, Ams and I have talked a lot about switching gears, right? So we're moms, we have businesses, we're busy women, and okay, it's a Thursday night and we're going to go party. Well, okay, it's hard to shift gears. So sometimes on the way to the party, it is about rules and, I don't know that I'm feeling this tonight. I just want to hang out. Let's, just check in with me. I'm not sure that I really want to do whatever, And so you get there and then you're having a good time and you start to switch gears and you feel a little differently. No rules.
Yeah, that is a really good point to bring up, because that context switching and like there you have to allow for some of that transition time and everything, because like you have to get out of that other business mom brain, all those other responsibilities, and allow yourself to be there in that moment. It's hard.
It is.
Yeah. How have you each sort of seen your individual like marriages grow or change in the last couple of years? I know, Ams, like you said, a lot of your motivation was we don't want to just be those people who get a surprise divorce. And you were kind of looking for that, like, what's going to keep us excited and that piece of it. And Kat, right, you came into it with like spicing things up with stories. Like, how have you seen things change, like between the two of you, not just sexually, just in general? Yeah.
I mean, for the two of us, our communication about sex has gotten significantly better. And I realize this is, this is one of the reasons that Kat and I started the podcast, really, is women, I'm generalizing here, but a lot of women have a tough time figuring out what they want sexually and then communicating that with their partner, with their spouse. And there's something about playing with a new partner and not wanting to have a really mediocre play experience with the new partner that makes you grow the fuck up and learn how to talk more directively when it comes to sex. So this made our sex life better, just the two of us too.
Yeah, I would say, I think that's probably a pretty common theme, is that, once you get into the lifestyle, you start to talk more. You find your voice somehow. You have to get it out there. You have to say what you want. Otherwise, you might find yourself in some situations that are super uncomfortable. But I feel like the stories themselves sort of got me into being able to ask him questions like, do you like this? And then finding out that he likes certain things made me feel more open about sharing more. I think as women, we grow up with such bullshit about what we're supposed to do, what we're supposed to like, we're not supposed to like. We're not supposed to be super sexual, right? We're supposed to be good little girls. And so then you get married and your husband doesn't want you to be a good little girl, So that's hard. But how do you kind of, you fight with yourself a little bit about wanting to do certain things or wanting to be more sexual, but also feeling like I'm not supposed to do that. So I find that transition was hard, and hearing the stories and talking more just helped to open me up to more possibilities.
Yeah. Were there things that you you for a while perhaps like thought like, I'd like to try this or I'm interested in that, but you were still too hesitant to share that with, Mr. Kat or Mr. Ams. Like you started to feel or started to learn new things about yourselves, but it was still a little too scary and a little too conditioned to actually like go there and talk about it.
For me, the struggle was not so much telling Mr. Ams what I wanted. It was honestly figuring out what I wanted. And I think for a lot of women, we don't have penises. So we don't have this really obvious appendage that like tells us, oh, this really turns me on. And so our sexuality is built on context and is built on how other people look at us and approach us. And so like a lot of my sexuality is kind of built off of the relationship that I had with Mr. Ams and the things that turned him on. Well, all of a sudden, when I was with other partners and in other context, for one, I cared a little bit less about what turned them on. I wanted to make sure I had an experience that I enjoyed. But the struggle for me was honestly figuring out what brought me pleasure independently. And then when I figured it out, I don't have any trouble telling him. A little bit less in bed. I'm not a very good dirty talker. I leave that to Kat. But outside of the bedroom, I have no problem telling people what I want.
So Kat tells people in the bedroom for you. Like this
She's an excellent dirty talker.
Well, and that's something I developed over time because it really turns Mr. Kat on. He loves it. So, I might have started a little tame in the beginning and then it just got hotter and hotter. And then, when what you're saying is turning them on like crazy, you're like, I want to do that more. It's good. But having, a conversation over dinner about sex was harder for me.
Yeah.
I grew up with all sisters in like a medical family. So sex was a part of the conversation from a young age, very young age.
And
we never talked about it at my house, ever.
Yeah. Yeah, quite the contrast, right? Like,
yeah.
I wanted to jump in a little bit and talk about, I know you said you met a few years ago. How did the two of you meet, or the four of you meet, I should say?
Yeah. We met on a couple's date. Mr. Ams and I were heading to Desire, and Kat and Mr. Kat had been there a couple of times. And they said, Kat in particular said, we have to meet because I will tell you all the things you need to know before you go. And I'm so glad we did. It was already within that window where I was thinking about the trip. I didn't want to go out and see anybody. So I was kind of resistant to go on the date, but I'm so glad we did because she did have all the great information on how to just kill it at Desire.
Yeah. Well, when we went, we didn't know anybody. So we went kind of cold, and I was trying to get information from people that I was, had little acquaintance with, but I was asking questions like, well, these theme nights, do people really dress up? And they were like, well, you can dress up if you want to. Some people do, some people don't. No, everybody dresses up.
Everybody dresses up.
And if you think that your outfit is too crazy, no, there's always someone dressed crazier, more fun, more out there than you. So I wish someone had said that to me because I would have gone for it much more. I would have felt so much better about being prepared, It's way more fun than they let on.
Yeah.
But I was like, here's what you need to do. And I told her all the things.
Yeah. It was great. And it was one of those couples dates where everybody immediately clicked. And you guys have done this long enough to know that does not happen that often.
Nope.
So, we had an immediate connection, and we actually went on a vanilla date the next day. I'm trying to remember.
It was an art
first
festival
time we played, but it was a little like we went on a couple of vanilla dates first.
Mm-hmm.
We went to an art festival the next day.
You had us over to your house for a barbecue.
We had you over to our house for a barbecue.
You did.
And we're one of those unusual LS, group friends that like all our kids get together. We're I mean, especially with COVID, we've kind of become this enmeshed family, which has been awesome. It's definitely saved, some money on therapy because it's nice to just have other people that we can connect with. But
and all our kids get along
they do.
fantastic.
Yeah. And that when we talk to other lifestyle people, when we go on couples dates and stuff, a lot of them are really envious of that ability to just switch from, vanilla, normal family activities to play relatively seamlessly, right? We have to make sure the kids are occupied in another space and away from us. But there is way more just hanging out, as friends than there is play. Play's great, but it's what, probably 5% of our time, 10% of our time, it's limited.
Yeah, probably a little bit more than that.
Oh my goodness.
You mean every 10 times we get together, we might play? Actually, that's not far off, but yeah. Yeah, we spend a lot of time just doing
Somebody's partying in the back.
with the kids and all of us together. We do have to be a little careful, though, because we're very affectionate, all of us, with each other. And so if the kids are around, I have to make sure I don't grab Mr. Am's butt when I'm passing him in the kitchen, So, we do have to. So, yeah, so she's, we're going up to meet them where they are now with all the kids. It's a kids' weekend.
Yeah.
It's awesome. That's what a lot of people, I think, are trying to find too.
That ability to be fluid, to have, it can be a barbecue, but then after the barbecue and the kids are asleep, it can be some adult fun, but it doesn't have to be, right? And that sort of flexibility is really nice. It's, like you said, that's what a lot of people are looking for.
We've sort of figured out sometimes what we do is we have all the kids come to our house. And then we go, we're going out to dinner, and we go over to their house.
Yeah.
So that kind of works out good.
Yeah. But there's no pressure, right? It's really, really comfortable. And I think maybe some people believe that, with a non-monogamous couple, that one person's being dragged along into that experience, and that they're really reluctant to play with, because we've built up this level of comfort and trust. Like if somebody's not feeling it, then they just say, I want to play. There's no pressure to be sexual if we don't want to be sexual. We have a super solid friendship, and that carries us through.
Well, and I think too that having been together, the four of us, so often, we have a lot of fun. I mean, I feel so comfortable and so just, it's just easy. And I think it just gets better over time. Like, the first date's fumbly. I don't remember our date being fumbly, but, they get better and better. Well, a year and a half in, they get really good.
Yeah.
Right, because that comfort level is there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How have you both handled, I guess, talking about your non-monogamy with other people in your life, with family, with friends? Are you out and open about it, or if it's more just in your marriage?
There's a few people that we've come out to. One of my sisters, one of Mr. Ams's friends. But for the most part, we're not open about it. I mean, they're not talking to us about their sex life, so we don't feel the need to disclose our sex life to them.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
We're not open either. We're not open to anybody.
Yeah. No, I think that's the approach we took for a very long time. And I think it's totally valid, right? Like, it's our sex. We don't need to tell everybody about it. So,
right.
Yeah.
Just have to come up with stories sometimes when you have a bunch of new friends all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely
we have to figure out how to tell people where we met.
Yes.
Because our kids think it's very weird that we've all met at the same restaurant, some at different times.
Randomly at a bar. Why do you always meet people randomly at a bar?
Trivia night.
Really
That's what
friendly.
we've gone with.
Oh, trivia night. I like that.
Good.
We should.
So you can use that. That one's free.
Thank you. Tips and tricks.
It's great.
Yeah.
I was also curious, like, it seems like it's been a relatively smooth ride for both of you. And I was just curious, like, have there been challenges, or what have some of the challenges been for either of you in navigating this, or has it been relatively like a smooth ride?
So I'll say, in the beginning, I worried very much about how Mr. Kat was going to feel about seeing me with another man. So that was my big stumbling block. I just thought, is he still going to love me after he sees me with someone else? I just didn't know what that was going to do. So I think I drew that out quite a long time and talking to him about, are you sure? And this and that, just trying to dive into that. We really didn't have, fights or arguments or anything like that. It was just more of my reluctance to sort of let him see me like that. Yeah. I worried that was going to affect his feelings for me.
Even though, like you said, leading up to that, like, you guys had the ability to go and flirt and do all of those things with no worry about the jealousy.
He actually kind of liked that. He saw me and thought, she's so cute. He just liked that about me. So that was, I think, from the very beginning of our relationship, that was sort of there, and It wasn't a problem. So,
right.
But actually seeing me, I just have sex with another man, I thought, I don't know about that. That seems like a really big step,
It is. It is a big step, to be fair.
Yeah.
So
your concerns are valid. Like that is a big step. So it sounds like there was, and you went slowly to get to that point, which was probably what you two needed, and that was the way it worked. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. For Mr. Ams and I think we had a great start. Everything was like riding on rails. What we stumbled a little bit when we came to realize that the things that we were getting out of the lifestyle were kind of different, and the things that we enjoyed were kind of different. So for him, he really liked more novelty, a little bit more casual encounters, the kind of higher level of variety was what turned him on. And for me, I found that the more I was able to connect with new people and new partners, the more I enjoyed the experience. So finding a balance between those two things was a challenge, and is still a challenge sometimes. But, one of the blessings to all of this is, I met Kat, and Mr. Ams met Mr. Kat, and we can have a friendship that is more open and honest, and we can kind of work with people who understand what you're going through. So, when we encounter challenges, I have a friend that I can turn to, and we can talk through our shit.
That's been amazing. I didn't think I would ever have a girlfriend that I could talk to about this kind of stuff so openly,
Yeah, I think that's a really awesome transition too. I mean, it's awesome to have that, and thank you for sharing.
That community is huge, especially because what you're doing, what we're doing, what a lot of the people on the show are doing is so counterculture in a lot of ways that you can't just talk. Usually you can't just talk to your buddy or your parents about it. Like when you're having an issue, you can't just go and be like, hey, I'm having this thing. Have you ever had this problem? Because chances are, no, they haven't. And they also probably think you're insane. Right. So you have to really build an intentional community around it that you can trust and lean on and talk with. So that's huge.
Well, and even if I had a girlfriend who was vanilla, who I felt like I could talk to, she couldn't relate to what I'm talking about because she's not doing what I'm doing. So to find a close girlfriend that you can really talk to about all of these things and know that they understand and they get it and they're coming from the same place, I think is huge.
Yeah, it is huge. And I think that's a really good transition too, to talk a little bit about your show and what you two, the project that you both are working on together, because you do have that friendship. And unless you had another question.
That was my question.
So yeah, we want to give you
so
time to
insane.
talk about, right? What you two are doing.
Well, I think that like a lot of times people might think what we're doing is a poly, right? Is sort of a poly relationship, but we do our own thing. So we're open. We go out with other couples, and so do they. Not so much during COVID, but whenever we would come together after having had experiences with other people, we just would like, yak, and talk all about it. And we had so much fun, and it was so animated and so exciting. I think that it sort of grew out of that. Don't you think, Ams?
Yeah. And I found that in playing around with the lifestyle and trying to figure out what I wanted sexually, that I needed someone to talk through those experiences and figure out, how could I make it better? How could I make it more sort of female centric too? Because, a lot of the sexual experiences that we're exposed to are really kind of through the male gaze, right? You learn sexuality through pornography, or you learn it through the partner that you have. So how do you kind of take the male voice out of the conversation so you can really explore sexual interest from a female perspective? So we would get together and think about different sexual experiences that might be fun to explore, and kind of set ourselves some sexy homework, go off and have those experiences and come back and figure out what worked, what didn't work, what kind of takeaways that we had. And we also wanted to build a community of other women, a safe space where other women could kind of explore what they were interested in, to ask questions, to talk with us. So that's what it was born out of, is this idea of creating a space where women could explore their sexuality without shame, without judgment. It's not really a lifestyle podcast as much as it is a podcast about women's sexuality, and our point of view just happens to be, two women in open marriages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I think that's such a gap, right, in this space, is that piece of it. So,
totally.
So thank you for
we
doing
thought that as well. We thought about how to open up the conversation that her and I have together to more people, and just make that a bigger conversation,
Yeah.
We didn't feel like there was that out there.
Yeah.
And if people want to listen, where can they find you? I know we'll have links in the show notes, but figured I'd give that plug as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we are the 2HotWives. You can actually TWO or 2HotWives all together. We're on social media. We have a website. You can find our podcast, through any of the distribution outlets, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We also link to it in our website, which is www.2HotWives, HotWives.com.
Yeah.
And that's the number 2.
Yeah. And so just to maybe to clarify, right, like the name implies that maybe you would both be exploring like a lot of hot wifing, but that sounds like maybe that's not exactly the case. And really that's not really even the focus, like you said, of the show.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have to say, I didn't know about hot wifing culture when I just, decided on the name, but I think we view it from the broadest definition of hot wives, right? We are 2 women who are married to amazing men who are comfortable letting us explore our sexuality. Sometimes that's with other partners. A lot of the times it's with them, or it's with this very close 4-way connection that we've developed. So we don't have a lot of independent play experiences without our husbands. That really sort of narrow, I think, old school swinger definition of hot wifing. We are 2 hot wives.
Not that we wouldn't explore that at some point.
No, I mean, we have, and we probably will more.
Right.
But it's not the focus.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it makes total sense. I also had another nosy question because Why not? You said, right, that like you have, the Katzes have their experiences and the Amses have their experiences, and you have some experiences together. Has there ever been jealousy of like cross couple? Like the Amses went and had a bunch of fun, and the Katzes were like a little jealous about it.
I can't speak for you guys,
trying
right?
to be, I mean, no, I don't think so.
I don't think there's possessiveness there, right? Like our relationship is built on non-monogamy. So there was never any expectation that there would be monogamy between the four of us. I think sometimes there's a little bit of FOMO. Like if,
Sure.
Yes. Yeah.
if one of us is on a roll and having a bunch of great dates, or like when we got a unicorn, I think there was maybe a little bit of FOMO.
Maybe a little bit.
Just a little bit. So that can happen, but there's not possessiveness.
Sure.
Right. Yeah, there have been times when Mr. Cat will say, hey, we need to get busy. They're busy. We need to make some more dates. What are we doing? Oh, okay. It's COVID.
Competitive, not jealous. I like it. No, I was just curious because like I could see how you grow really close, right? And you share a lot, but like, I think FOMO is a really good way to describe it because I could definitely see having that ourselves for sure.
Well, and when I think about, Mr. Cat and I want him to have fun. I love seeing him happy. I love that part of it. And so now I get to see my friends are happy.
Yeah.
When they have a fun date and they come back and they tell us all about it, it makes me happy. They're smiling, they're laughing. It's great. So, you could be jealous of that, or you could be enjoying all of it with them. So
yeah, totally. Love it. Is there anything else that either of you would like to share before we let you get on with the rest of your evening? Unless, again, you have
that was going to be my question.
We have a really hot playlist on Spotify.
Is it linkable that we could put it in the show notes?
Yeah.
Awesome.
We'll definitely put those in.
And delicious
music
cocktail.
that we like.
We have a whole cocktail list. We start our shows with the cocktail of the episode, and we do usually have a cocktail before we record just to kind of get in the mood to share
Switch gears.
experiences. Yeah.
Yeah. Switch gears.
If anybody had heard the beginning of this one that got edited out, they would have thought we all drank 20 cocktails before we got started.
Or not enough.
Right. Exactly.
Maybe that was the problem. So
took us a little bit to get on a roll tonight.
What everybody heard was like take 5. But that's all good.
All right. As long as we all get to the end and we're happy.
Yes.
I think so.
Again, with the context switching, we were doing the same thing today. So.
Yeah. Well, I think then if you're both good and we're both good, then maybe we'll let you get along with your evening. I know it's quite a bit later on your end of the country. And so we'll let you get along with I guess one of you is having an early weekend, which is exciting. So enjoy that. And
but they have all the kids.
We do.
Well, then I guess
all the kids.
Who's going to party? I think it's me.
Wow. It's an even trade.
Yeah, right? Vacation with the kids or work, but have the home to yourself.
Take me with you.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you both for coming on. Thank you for the work, for creating your show and for the work you're doing. And yeah, we'll be in touch and, maybe keep an ear out for us on the 2HotWives show. We've heard that might happen in the future.
Yeah,
we would love that.
Have you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Emma and Fana.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Ams and Kat, for reaching out and coming on the show, sharing your story. It was wonderful to talk to both of you, and we're excited to send more listeners your way.
Yeah, and thank you also for all the work you do and the the resource you're creating for everybody out there. So.
And links to everything they talked about are in the show notes in your podcast player and on our website.
You need to tone it down because I'm not toned up. And I think the discrepancy between the two of us is really making me look like a boring dud.
Well, pick it up a little bit.
All right. Things we need to talk about. We have some important information. We're going to talk about our Patreon community.
Yes. So thank you.
I'll let you do it so it sounds a little more exciting.
Perfect. Thank you so much to all of our Patreon members. We have over 160 of you, and the community is honestly just amazing. It's something that we've always dreamt about, and to have all of you actually be part of this community is just incredible. So thank you. Thank you.
I will just jump in and say this community has really helped Emma and I get through through 2020. And honestly, like, it's been a valuable resource to us as we've navigated our journey as well over the last year. And so, like, we've had some tough times, and like, we've been able to lean on this community, and we've seen the community lean on each other. And so it's fantastic. And it's just a couple bucks a month. If it's something you're interested in, if you're looking for community, head over to our website and click on the Patreon tab, and you can see all the different things we've got. As we mentioned, we've got the men's call, the women's call, the monthly Q&As. We also have an ongoing MeWe chat group, which people are in there all day, every day, talking about different things. A lot of it's just fun nonsense, but some of it's deep and helpful and meaningful. So if you're looking for other people like yourself, check it out and see if it's a good fit. We'd love to have you, and we're just, again, thankful to everybody who's part of the community right now. So thank you.
Yes. The other quick resource we wanted to mention is our favorite way to get tested for STIs.
And we love it. We love doing it. It's like,
so much fun.
Sometimes we don't even need to, and we do it.
STDcheck.com. Now, when you use their service, they actually decreased the price recently, and it's only $129 when you use the discount on our website, the links on our website. So you go into your local Quest or LabCorp, give blood samples, and voila, you get your results really quickly.
Yeah, usually within a day. It's the thing that we love about it is it's private. You don't have to have weird conversations with your doctor. The person taking your blood really doesn't give a rat's ass while you're there.
And it's important to know your status.
Yeah, and it's really affordable. And so, yeah, it's easy, it's private, it's cheap. We love it. So,
and using the links on our webpage does support the show. So we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And with that, next week, we have an interview with Claire. And stay tuned. Beautiful interview coming up in a week.
We'll see you next Wednesday, everybody.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.